question today.
I no biggie, no biggie. Yeah, man. So we're back. We're back. It's been a while. Been a minute. It's been a minute. We have been a while since we've actually been online, man. I kind of want to took a little break from this because I want to, I don't want to do this all the time. I kind of to have it just where we can get together when we have something to say and it's more organic as opposed to just being, just talking, just to talk's sake. So anyhow, so everyone's hanging in there, man. What else is going on?
Hey, I got a question.
Sure.
Is it me or, and let me preface it by saying, I feel horrible for the people of Ukraine, okay? And what's happening to the people of Ukraine. But is it me or is the world supporting this a whole lot different than they did with what happened in Rwanda?
No, you are 100% correct. Like they
are. Absolutely. They're supporting this 100% different than Haiti.
Right. And it's something going on in, I believe, Ethiopia
Sudan, I think.
right
There's
now.
Is it Sudan, I think? Ethiopia, Sudan? Is like
that's it.
Like it's sort of starvation.
It's worse than Ukraine, but we don't hear about it.
No, I mean it's so blatant.
They are not, it is. And they are not the complexion for the protection.
Oh.
It's also a war between nuclear powers.
I mean,
go ahead,
I'm sorry.
I'm not saying this because Mike's point, Dave's point, or any of the points aren't true. It's just the other factor is Russia is a nuclear power and it's bordering on with our allies in NATO.
I get that part of it. I get that. But to me, that's just part of the excuse to fast track.
Yep.
Exactly.
Privilege. Right.
I mean, they weren't even trying to let brothers in the other
Prince William wasn't Prince Williams asked a few weeks ago about it, and he said that we're used to those people fighting in Africa, but we're not used to war like this in Europe. So I was watching the news the other day, maybe it was yesterday, and they were showing like this family, this poor Ukrainian family, which, by the way, if you can fly from, they had traveled to Poland on foot or wherever, and then they went from Poland to Germany, and then from Germany to Mexico. When they got to Mexico, they were met at the Mexican border by a immigration attorney, and they were bused from the airport to this office, right, in immigration. 2 hours later, they're on a flight to San Diego, and then the next day on the coverage, they're in their new apartment. They fast-tracked every other group, every other ethnicity, and I'm just saying, what suffering only it only applies to one kind of people. It's just so
it's the suffering that they feel that it's the suffering that they feel and that they relate to. Everybody else doesn't matter.
They can relate to this because the people look like them. There's even been people, I'm not sure if they've been doing it in America, but I know in England there have been people who've been talking about how they feel more comfortable with these people immigrating to their country because they're white and Christian. Like, and it's one of those things where like this country needs to be defended, on principle, but it also exposes how deeply racist the country actually is.
Yeah, pretty much. Ask any African student that's trying to get back, it's a student in Ukraine. I was reading these stories about how like these Africans were like, they're students in Ukraine going to medical school, wherever, and they're trying to escape, and they were thrown off trains.
Absolutely.
Like,
get off.
I mean,
walk.
I don't know if any of y'all like go through foreign search engines or websites or go to foreign newspapers, and when you see the photos of other places, like seeing the Ukrainians in the street that have been murdered, it's a lot different when it's like black or brown folks where they're like body parts are cut off, heads, there's decapitated heads, and it's just plainly shown on the site. But they won't show us that stuff here, but we're supposed to feel a certain type of way because we see Europeans that have been murdered by other Europeans, where when it's black or brown.
Rod, can I pause you right there for a second? this is another factor. Is this is right now, this story is in vogue. It's getting headlines. It's generating the most news. Same way Black Lives Matter was doing this during all the protests and stuff the year before. Right now, the world's eyes are on this, just like the world's eyes are on George Floyd. This is the thing of the week. I'm not saying some of the systemic stuff you guys are arguing isn't the case. It's just the other part of that is this is the big thing.
But
also, it's affecting
inflation.
No. I mean, I understand. I understand what you're trying. I understand what you're trying to say, but this and George Floyd is totally separate. I'm talking about comparing, like,
look at all
crimes.
the news attention
Hold on a second. Hold on a
comparable.
second. I'm comparing war crimes, atrocities globally to each other. I'm not comparing a civil matter where somebody gets shot by, and I'm not saying that it's not a racial impetus to it, and I'm not saying that it's a problem, but it's a different level when it's war, when it's two groups of people that clearly define themselves as different, and it's war, whether it's ethnic war or whether it's nation state war. But it's war.
Of course.
And I'm just saying, like, how it's depicted and you have to look at the purpose of the power and the purpose of the media and the news media, of how they try to spin it, how they try to invoke emotions, and
exactly
what commercials get the most views.
That's the difference. No. But these other atrocities have been happening around the world. They could easily green light these things, the executive and the news corporations, for that to be the thing, for the ethnic cleansing and the wars in Ethiopia, for us to, that's been going on for a lot longer than this.
But I feel like, Rod, we have this conversation all the time about the news. It's for-profit news. They're going to push the stories that are going to get as much market traction as it's going to be.
Aaron,
if the people of America or the people watching the news don't care about the story, they're not going to push it. It's not
you guys
moral.
are going off track a little bit from the question, right? This isn't about news coverage. And my angle wasn't news coverage. My anger is the support the U.S. government is giving.
No, I'm with you wholeheartedly on that one, Dave.
Yeah.
And even even the U.S. in general, it's. Let me give y'all a quick example. My kid has an internship, and he has to go to Oregon for this internship, right? So we're looking for housing for him out there, and one of the housing advertisements, or somebody looking to room or share, or it was like 3 or 4 ads for homes that were open to Ukrainian immigrants. And I'm like, I ain't never seen nothing like that for anybody in Africa or Haiti or anything like that. So it is the U.S., it's everybody, but then nobody is going to do that for
with the nuclear
Haiti,
power.
It's not even about that for me, dude. It's just about I'm going with the context of the question. So that's how I feel about it.
I mean, I'm just saying this. America is putting forward $100 million a day in some instances right now to support Ukraine, right? I mean, look around you, man. What's going on for Black and brown people in this country? And I'm not saying, again, you're putting this out live. I understand the suffering the people of Ukraine are going through. This isn't about the people of Ukraine. This is about the practice and principles of the United States. And it's showing itself one more time in a different way right here in front of us.
So let me hold on a second. I want to respond. So China, India, nuclear powers. There's we have housing for Uyghurs, for Chinese people that are being horrifically exploited by the Chinese government. There's no the slum dogs of India. We're not trying to have them immigrate to this country. It's not the same level of response. Those are nuclear powers. They are folks of color, Chinese, Indian.
Right.
Out of the folks that have out of the countries that's allowed to develop and have nuclear weapons. I believe that the rest of the countries that actually have them are predominantly white governments.
So let me ask you this question. If the support is around nuclear weapons, right, then what does that have to do with allowing folks to come in across the border? What does that have to do with fast tracking people to the front of the line and, kind of getting them to the U.S.? Like, let them come here. Let's remember, and I get this, right? When World War II occurred, right, we didn't put Germans in American concentration camps, right? We put the Japanese
in internment camps, yeah,
right, because they look different. So this is not. I'm not pointing out that this isn't obvious. By the way, Ukraine, up until a couple of years ago, wanted nothing to do with America. Ukraine, the country, right? That's part of the reason they
had a regime change.
They weren't. They sided more with Russia, right? And don't forget, Russia had their guy, and he lost to the current prime minister, in the elections a few years back. But they wanted nothing to do with. That's why they're not getting any protection. I mean, we're protecting them now, but that's why they're not on the NATO. They wanted very little to do with.
They wanted to join NATO. We were like, "Nah, that's going to piss off Russia. Maybe not do that." And then Russia
clearly that didn't work because Russia saw it as America was destabilized right now, and Putin gambled and thought that the West wouldn't come together as much as they did, right? But if we're going to support them from a nuclear perspective, I get that. We're arming them, right? We're sending stuff. I'm just talking about the other angle of, allowing fast tracking. And even within Ukraine, you can see how poor gets neglected and rich gets supported, right? Because the folks that are leaving Ukraine, that are able to leave, are the wealthy ones. The ones that can fly from Europe to Germany and from Germany to Great Britain and everything, they're the wealthy ones. The poor ones are getting killed and thrown in mass graves, right? In Ukraine.
All about the money, man. It's all about the money.
Money rules this world, man. And again, I'm just saying, I'm just seeing it here and going, boy, man, if we just took a tenth of that and helped our communities in different ways. And I get it. It's not one piece of it. My brother, which we talked about, where, and I'm going off course a little bit with, police and police brutality, but all of the pieces, the elements of that, man, we put a tenth of the money we're putting elsewhere, we could help shape this country, right? But that's not.
So this is actually something I deal with a lot at my job. Oh, Mike, you can go ahead. It's fine. Because I know it's going to be something amazing for Mike. Go ahead.
It's not. David, you're right. But it also goes back. I think Spindley Butler said, like, every dollar we spend on, a tank or a battleship is, miles of roads or a new school or
God damn, Mike.
What, man?
That's a really good point.
like every
I knew you were
dollar.
going to say something amazing, but damn.
And I think I was just kind of scrolling through TikTok and the inciting joke of the sort of end and beginning of the video was like, Russia's about to find out why we can't have healthcare, and it's because we're spending. I mean, we suddenly found $800 million,
right?
To send.
Right. Yep.
Like for as much as we're sitting here talking about how inflation is bad and we can't pay nobody anything, a minimum wage or rent's going, and we can't do anything about rent. Like, well, we got $800 million, to buy some.
They pay benefits to Puerto Ricans.
It's not a priority.
They pay benefits to Puerto Ricans living in Puerto Rico.
Right.
But now, like, as far as Ukraine goes, what's the end game for the West? So let's say that Ukraine does push back Russia, gets admitted into NATO. Ukraine, as part of an earlier agreement with Russia, gave away their nuclear arsenal. So that Russia wouldn't hopefully invade them. If they become part of NATO, won't they get a nuclear arsenal to defend?
No. It just becomes part of a mutual defense pact. Now, what's Ukraine? And I was out of the room.
That means that nuclear weapons could be used if Russia tries. They're under that umbrella. So
I mean, it is, but the only I think it's less nukes being a threat, because quite frankly, we got nukes, Russia got nukes, China got nukes, India got nukes, Pakistan got nukes, Israel got nukes, but we all pretend that they don't got nukes. France got nukes, but like anybody using the nukes. So okay, fine. We got nukes.
By the way, to your point, Mike, we don't need nukes in Ukraine to attack Russia. So it's not about nukes.
That's the thing, right? Russia being like Ukraine being where it is,
right?
Is and being attached to Russia, NATO is what Putin is worried about. Now, ironically, I think Finland and Norway are like two of them countries that were like, "No, we ain't in NATO." Now they want to join NATO.
Yeah, Finland. And you know why Finland wants to go,
Yeah, but
right?
like,
Why is Finland
one of
wanting to
the-
get back here?
like one of the issues
they don't
I
want to be
have
next.
with how
That's
the, one of the issues I have about how the media is portraying it, like they're trying to portray the Russian military like they have old, outdated equipment, this, that, and the other, as far as conventional war. If that's true, then why are we so timid? Like you understand what I'm saying? Like,
We're timid because
they're
they got a
nuclear
nuclear
power?
button. We're
I-
timid because they have a nuclear weapon. They have nuclear weapons, right?
You know what surprised me? They're talking about Russia. They're talking about how Ukraine, Ukraine is fighting up Russia and all these other places, and they say they have an 8-mile tank convoy headed in what you call it, an 8-mile convoy of tanks.
Yeah.
Can you imagine 8
how
miles
many
of fucking
tanks that is?
tanks?
So
I
here's
never
the
think
thing.
about that.
How easy it would be to
That's not
destroy that with
necessarily a
one
good
jet.
thing, though.
Yeah,
No,
but
it's not a good thing. I'm just saying that
No,
that
I mean, from a military standpoint, it's not necessarily good to have that long of a convoy,
right. It's not.
right?
We don't
Because
know how.
it's easy to
No,
attack.
L,
Right.
L,
Right, it
L,
is.
L, no,
Yeah.
L.
But
You
it
were
is a
right,
lot of
right?
tanks, though. That's a
But
lot of tanks.
Let me ask you this question, Les, as the ex-military. That's
Mm.
true if there was an Air Force they had to worry about, right?
Mhm.
They'd be sitting ducks coming down the stripe with an 8-mile long tank line, right? But
yeah,
they don't have to worry
yeah.
about that with
No, but you still have to worry about it. So that long of a convoy is easy
you
to
gotta
attack.
feed it.
But
I get
but
it.
my
You gotta
point
feed
my
it.
point is
Byline.
this.
It's still
My
it's
point,
still
byline.
it's still easier.
but my
to,
point is this: is that Russia
Right,
has that
supply line.
that much of a force to send. You know what I mean? It's like it's like they
But you
have
gotta
that
remember
many.
Russia didn't, Todd, not to cut you off, but Russia people, this is that fool's gold that the West, this is political
Yeah.
foolishness going on here, right? The West knows this. The only reason Russia didn't truly destroy Ukraine early is because they thought, Putin misread it, and he thought we're going to deal with
the
it.
Russian, Ukrainian people.
Yes,
would
yes,
join
and so he didn't
Yeah,
send
they
them
slap
out.
him up. Yeah.
Think about it. Putin has Air Force. He could destroy Ukraine in a day if he wanted to, but he is.
You're also, I think you're. I'm sorry to cut you off, but like the thing you're also ignoring is that the fact that Putin has gathered around himself an army of yes men.
Right.
And you are correct. Like if he put effort into it, under a competent leader would do that, and like
Right.
Putin's very competent, but like the plan was to blitz the country,
Right.
have half the country rise up and join. Basically, use they didn't even bring like fuel lines because what were they
people were going to sing in the streets and celebrate them coming in, right? They didn't expect this to last more than a couple of weeks, maybe with some resistance, and it's turned into more. So now, and Putin, if it goes back, right, the old map, I think before World War I think World War II changed it. Finland and Ukraine were truly, if you look at the people, from Russian descent. So Putin, if you look at his old philosophy, he's always believed that Finland and Ukraine should be part of Russia. That's why Finland now is like, can we join NATO? Because they're worried.
They realize they might be next.
He's coming at them next. Right?
Yep. It's
Did we lose somebody?
Rod. He had to step off. He said be back.
Okay.
He said be back. It's it's interesting, this whole thing. I think Russia, I'm wondering, my thought is that I think Putin at this point.
You mean Leon?
Yeah. No, Rod too. No,
Okay.
it's Leon. No, Leon.
Yeah,
Leon. Sorry, my bad.
Leon said he had to jump off.
Yeah, Leon said he had to jump off. I think Putin wants. I mean, at this point, I don't think Putin is committed to taking all Ukraine. I don't think he wants to go into do a folly like Russia did with Afghanistan and be stuck there for years and fighting in the mountains with rebels. I think what he can do is if he can make a big enough push and create no shock and awe, he gets the east of it. I heard they also want the south, but at least if you get the east of it, you got something. And
you want that port city,
right?
So
and then
Maripol.
Yeah, Port City. Then you have something to build off of. You know what I mean? And in his eyes, it's as much of a victory I think he's probably going to get. I think at this point.
Yeah, his army. his conventional army is not. He doesn't want to destroy Ukraine because what's the worth of that? Just a land after you've destroyed it, you've created hate and animosity.
Right. Yep.
His conventional army
Generations.
is outdated. They've spent most of their resources on nuclear weapons and capabilities, and not on a conventional army. Right? They weren't expecting a conventional. They certainly weren't expecting Ukrainian folks to fight back. So he's not equipped to fight that guerrilla type warfare. You're right about Afghanistan. He learned that the hard way, right? So he's but he wants to take that Crimea, that whole, eastern part, southeast part of Ukraine, because he gets the port city and then he gets land mass access to kind of just bring in his troops. I think in the long run, he's going to go after Finland. And over the next decade, he's coming back for Ukraine unless we can fortify us. I think the U.S. should be putting a lot of our money and time into giving Putin an off-ramp right now, but building up our military's anti-nuclear defense system over the next decade. So that the next time,
what would the off-ramp actually look like? I've been thinking about this for a while. Yeah. It just seems like
the off-ramp is to allow him to have, like Todd said, a portion
part of it,
a portion of Ukraine, fortify the defenses around the new expanded part of Russia, build up defenses and try to outpace what they can do conventionally to absorb other parts of the European continent. Yeah. I just want to say, as far as Afghanistan is, like, that's an anomaly historically. Like, because of the terrain, nobody's really able to win in Afghanistan. Like, it's different. But in Europe, there has been, many wars of, different countries taking over other parts and absorbing them. So it definitely is possible. The terrain is not an issue, except for if you're trying to invade Russia when the Russian winter comes. But with global warming, hey, that might
not be that bad. No, probably can do it.
Yeah. That might be off the table.
Be like Napoleon or
but the Russian winter in World War I and II, like that shut everything.
Got Germany down, right?
That's what killed Germany. That's destroy the German army. Yep, trying to take over.
But we're not now global warming. Oh shoot, it's a balmy 20 degrees out. We can still fight.
There's no conventional.
It's not 20 below.
You know what? All these, you mentioned the big superpower, and I'm not talking about India and Pakistan India and Pakistan build their nuclear weapons to fight India and Pakistan, right? But if you take China, and Russia, right, and North Korea is out there too, but a lot of that, we'll never go to war because we have these weapons pointed at each other. But there'll be plenty of proxy wars. Like, for example, U.S. and Russia has been fighting each other to some degree in Syria. Right, we've been fighting forever. We fought them in Afghanistan. We armed the rebels. Right. So Bin Laden was our friend early, and then he wasn't late. Right. So we'll always be fighting proxy wars. But I agree. We're not. It's not so much that this is a philosophical war for Russia. It's for Putin because he has so many yes men around him. He believes that Ukraine and Finland should be part of his. That's the only reason that they're there.
I don't agree with you, but I think I think him taking the eastern part of Ukraine and eastern and southern part of Ukraine is, I think that's his principal realignment of the outcome, right? Because let's be honest, the goal was to take Kyiv and essentially reinstall a Russia-friendly government, because the president that Zelensky was a Russian puppet that was ousted in a relatively peaceful coup, and then fled to Russia. Like, left his papers, they weren't going through the palace, like just was spending lavishly on himself, just left all this evidence of his corruption because he booked the fuck out of there. And the goal was to take the country, take the capital, and then once you get the capital, you got the country. Now he kind of tried to soften up Ukraine as a whole, the same way he took Crimea, right? He played to the Russian nationals' Russian patriotism, and
Right.
I think he assumed and was told that there was a lot more support for that in the eastern regions than there actually was. There's a lot of there were a lot of stories of native Russian speakers who were saying, I speak, saying that Russians, they are culturally Russian and it's their first language, but they live in Ukraine and they are Ukrainian and they will defend Ukraine. I think, like we said earlier in this, Putin expected to be welcomed, welcomed with open arms, and what isn't fighting that. So it isn't finding that. So this, we're just going to take the eastern part of the country is his secondary goal to save face. He might come back, but like I think before he gets to Finland, Putin's much more likely to move to Poland. The problem is
he's not going to Poland.
He's not going to go to Poland. But unfortunately, the fact that he has botched Ukraine so badly,
right? That's
everybody else. Like what? Right. It's like when the bully gets right in the face.
Punching him out.
He's thinking, he's rethinking his life now. He's like, should I have done that?
I mean, he's just angry that he couldn't steamroll this, what he assumed is his little country. Yeah. And there's lots of reasons as to why that is. But I think the world's kind of discovering that Russia isn't what we all thought it was.
Right.
Well,
I think our intelligence knew that.
I'm actually reminded of this moment between Mitt Romney and Barack Obama. Hey, I've been quiet. I wanted to share an anecdote. There is a moment where Mitt Romney is debating Barack Obama, 2012, 2013. It doesn't matter. And Mitt Romney cuts him off and says, "You're going to play around with Putin? You think Putin's not a big deal?" And Obama laughs in his face, just like, "Dude, it's not 1984 anymore. Like, get with the times."
No, I think that
I got binders full of women.
I mean, as far as intelligence goes, like David was talking about, I think we need to. I wonder if our intelligence agencies, if Putin dies or whatever happens to Putin, who's behind Putin that's going to carry on his vision?
Great point.
And are they going to be worse?
That's a great point. And that's
are they going to be worse?
We learned that with
normally they are. Normally they are.
Yep, I agree. Yep. We learned that with Saddam. Yep. We learned that with Gaddafi. There are people behind there that's way more
radical.
I think the thing that we learned with Gaddafi
and point, Russia's kind of always been kind of brutal.
No, but
I also think that you want to. There's a saying that says the devil you know is worse than the devil you don't know. So like think about like Iraq. Okay, we got rid of Saddam, but who's there now? You know what I mean? We don't know.
U.S. politics. Trump got voted out, and then DeSantis is trying to step up. Trump got voted out. DeSantis is trying to step up. So DeSantis is doing everything he can to appeal to Trump's base to try to be more Trump than Trump.
So since you mentioned that, Rod, let's talk about Governor DeSantis. He has basically started a war with Disney.
He gonna lose.
So I asked this question earlier. Do you think that let's just fast forward 2 years, 2024, Trump isn't running anymore. DeSantis is the top candidate. He becomes the leading Republican nominee. Do you think he beats Biden in an election? Do you think he wins an election against Biden?
Depends what the economy is doing.
Right. It depends
on the economy. I'm gonna go with my brother Les argument that he made earlier when we was not online.
Right. And that's kind of what I'm getting to. I really, and again, that's what I was talking earlier. I really think one of my issues is I really think that, with the way that Biden is looking and sounding and his approval ratings particularly, I don't know if he beats DeSantis unless the economy does this major turnaround and boom, and also we become like this
it's
sort
not
of center of the world. I don't know.
I think it has less to do with looking and sounding and more with actual work and effort and what have they done? What's their record on since they've been elected?
Yeah.
It's not the optics. It's not how well you can hold a press conference. It's not the photo ops. It's not that. What have you done?
Yeah.
And to use for mainstream America, your student loans forgiveness, what have you done? Your $15 an hour minimum wage, what have you done? Have you ticked one box on your contract for Black America? Probably not.
Well, he tried and failed because what actually happened, right? When we all saw this, when he flooded the daggone economy with all that money earlier during COVID, right? And what did that lead to? It led to the inflation that we have now. And the same people you try to help are struggling worse.
What? How?
Because he failed to understand how economics work. So economics, right? Think
you
about
can't
that.
print more money. Printing more money only makes inflation happen. It accelerates it.
No. Supply and demand.
I'm trying to think. What did he do to accelerate the inflation in regards to like?
How do you accelerate? Think about that. How do you accelerate inflation? You give people more money, and on top of that, you shorten supply. Now he didn't have a control over the supply, right? The supply chain issue came along with people having money in their pockets, and it just continued to spike inflation. Like think about this.
David, I'm not getting the correlation. You're talking about the stimulus payments. Like that made it worse?
Yes.
Last time I checked, everybody was pretty broke and fucked up around that time period anyway.
No, our economy was not in an inflationary state that it is now. Absolutely not.
No, I'm saying, remember, everybody lost money at the beginning of the pandemic. I just don't see how that even correlates to things now.
Aaron, just look into basically how libertarians view the economy once we went off the gold standard, and you'll understand, like, when you print money or increase the flow of money into the economy, how inflation happens. The libertarians do a pretty good job of explaining.
No, I understand the concept. I've been under the impression that the inflation issue stems back to a large variety of different factors, not any one thing.
No,
this is kind of why what I keep hearing from everybody is this is Biden's fault. This is Biden's fault. Fantastic Republican talking point. Well, what does that have to do with the whole China's no COVID policy, constantly locking down a lot of the people who handle a lot of their shipping? That just
started happening.
I've got more. When the pandemic started, everybody from the jobs more or less got laid off or couldn't work, and some of those people did not come back. Normally, with job markets or whatever, people come in, people come out at more or less a similar rate. What happened was
Aaron. Can I interrupt you? Like, people got laid off, but yet the federal government gave money to businesses to keep people on, and the businesses kept the money and didn't give it to the workers to inject it back into the economy. So they put money into the economy that didn't go, and then it inflated the market.
Aaron, think about this. You give. All right, let's do it this way. It's not the idea of giving money to the economy that's the challenge. It's how you went about it.
Yeah.
Right. So I know there were dudes that hadn't worked there were guys in jail getting money. Think about that. There are guys that sit around at home. You didn't have to show any proof of having worked. So if the idea is to help those who weren't working, meanwhile, we had mothers with children who needed to get daycare assistance and couldn't get it. So the $1 trillion that you threw at the economy was done incorrectly. What does that do? When you throw money at it, people spend it, right? Because these aren't necessarily folks who understand how to save the right way. So we're going to spend because they need it. They put money in.
Yeah.
When you start to spend money, what happens? You start to run out of supply, right? When you start to run out of supply, what happens? The supply that's left.
But people needed the supplies?
Huh?
People needed the supplies?
No. You're the overall concept.
I'm trying to imagine, like, I'm not following.
People didn't.
It's supply side economics, Aaron.
Yeah. So if you're trying to help people who need help, then you target those people with putting money. We may have spent 400 million or $500 billion. You don't throw $1 trillion at the economy and just give everybody who weren't necessarily contributing cash, because what does that do? people go out and spend. And what that does is it starts to shorten. So right now, for example, right? If you take a regular economy 2 years ago, not everybody are buying cars. Let's just take used cars for an example, right? So you combine the fact that we had an issue with, I get it, with some of the microchips that were necessary to build cars, right? So that stopped some of the new cars coming on the market, and people who were buying new cars went to buy used cars, right? But when you take and flood the market with cash, John Doe, who wasn't necessarily thinking about buying a car, he is now looking in the market for a car, right? So what happens with supply chain issues?
On the market.
Less cars out there. So I'm Mr. Car Selling Guy, who also got stimulus money, by the way. What do? Let me jack up the car price that I have, right? Yep. So that car price is now up 10, 15. If you guys look 20, I'm just using cars as an example, right? That's now 20% higher. So the same people, Aaron, that
it's actually 40% higher. Sorry, Dave.
Yeah, okay.
For used cars, it's about 40% higher.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
So
the housing market is through the roof. Also,
Aaron. So
housing
Aaron,
market too.
That's the one I've been seeing the most.
The same people you were trying to help short term, you help them short term. You put $5 in their pocket, but then you raised everything around them $10.
Yep.
So what does that do? It did not help the people long term. You may have gotten a few votes, but now everybody's upset because we're back to 1975, right? With inflation through the roof, your dollar is less, and we're not going to.
What should we have done when everybody was struggling during the pandemic?
Well, no, it's the thing. It's the thing.
Now I know we're going back to Trump's presidency as well.
No. We're going a little bit. We're going back a little bit further. Well, we're going to do the thing that nobody in this country wants to do, both Democrats and Republicans. You kind of got to go back to FDR. We're going to make jobs. You're going to dig a ditch, fill a ditch, and I'm going to pay you for it. Then you're going to earn wages, and then you're going to buy stuff. We're going to create jobs.
Exactly.
And that's what he did. But now FDR is seen as
wait, no. That's who did what?
FDR.
No, not FDR. Yeah, FDR did that. But I thought you were saying now. I apologize.
No. I'm just saying no political party at this point wants to implement any sort of semblance of the policies of FDR, and the Republican Party has systematically spent the last 60 to 80 years trying to undo what FDR and they've been extremely successful being methodical about it.
They've been planful, right? They took the long-term view.
Yes, they
doing
did.
It at the local government level and working their way up.
Yep. Yes,
we took the big picture, right? The Democrats took the big picture view, and
they lost.
They lost. They have. And guess what? You think it's bad now, and it's not it's going to get worse because we're going to lose the House. Okay, there are some of these districts, the way they're reset. I don't think it'll take generations to change it, if at all. So you're going to have when you're going to lose the Senate. So when you lose the House and Senate, and you have a Republican president, you're going to see.
I'm telling you,
it's coming. We can't stop it whether you want to.
I'm telling you, that goes back to my question about DeSantis. I'm telling you, if this economy is getting better, if things stay the same as they are now,
surprised.
I think Biden's a dead duck.
Yeah, because guess what?
He's a dead duck.
DeSantis
is nobody else
savvy.
to run.
Yeah, he's young, savvy, and he's not coming in an aggressive manner, even though his policies are
right. To be honest, he's part of the evolution of Trumpism.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? You think about it. We thought we had it bad with Trump. But you think about it, you have someone that's a little smarter and knows how to cover it. Look at this whole "don't say gay" bill, right?
Yeah.
And if you look at it on the surface, you say, "Oh, well, it's not that bad." It's just saying what you call it, but it's the application of it.
Right. But there is a slight.
That's the devil's in the details.
Yeah.
No, but there is a slight glimmer of hope because Trump is actually an outsider to the Republican Party, and I don't know if his ego can take somebody out Trumping him. So in the primary, like it's gonna be an ugly.
You mean like be a dog fight?
It's gonna be an ugly like we've never seen if he tries to out Trump.
You know who could be a hero in this? I'm saying something really weird. Who could be a weird, unique hero?
Romney. Romney? No.
No,
He's born. He'll never win.
Elon Musk. There's a whole thing where he was trying to buy Twitter. Everybody's all against him buying Twitter because he wants to make it more of a public forum. And my guess, my thinking is he wants to
buy Twitter so that Trump can get back on Twitter.
Right. So that gives Trump a bigger voice, which makes him more powerful. That's the reason why Trump has been losing power, because his voice isn't as powerful. His big thing was Twitter. That was a big thing for him. It was how he communicated with people. But since he's been off, he hasn't been as known. People don't really, his voice is as widely known.
His public platform is failing horribly.
And don't fall for like Elon, the poison pill with the stock that you can own by 50%, because there's a secondary and a tertiary plan. If Elon can't buy it, then some other venture capitalist firm is going to buy it. Trump is going to
sell it to him. Yep.
So don't fall for this. Don't fall for it.
Yep. I'm of the belief. I think Elon's Twitter is his. He's going to buy it. He's going to have some control and some controlling aspect of it. You know, that I see that happening. But
it's not Trump that I'm worried about, honestly.
I'm not.
The Santos of the world. Trump is old man with very radical, and he's honest and done. When I say honest, he doesn't care about what you think, so he's going to talk. DeSantis knows how to be a politician.
Yep.
Right.
And that's scary. He's a devil you don't know. Trump is, in a sense, Trump is a devil you know, because you know he's going to say stupid shit. You know he's going to do something really crazy and off the wall, and you can almost anticipate it. But someone like DeSantis, well, he can say something really sort of maudlin and really say some policy. Oh, that doesn't seem that bad. That's how you apply it.
Policies.
And then if Republicans gain back the Senate, we're in bad shape, man. I'm telling you.
Oh yeah, we are
in bad shape. We are in bad shape.
Think about this: the Supreme Court is 6-3, right? The Supreme Court is 6-3. They're controlling the Senate. They're controlling the House, in a few months. And the Senate is not necessarily far off for them. And the White House is a 50-50 grab.
Yep.
Doesn't look good.
I just don't understand how the Democratic Party got into this position, though. I just don't get it. I don't understand how the Democratic Party got in this position.
No long-term view, no planning, not understanding local politics, and trying to be Republican light instead of playing to their.
Well, actually, I think they weren't Republican like enough in some ways. Like the Republican decided, you know what? I'm just going to have these pundits speak a lot of foolishness to Fox News. Think about CNN. CNN recently, right, was bought, right, and they were coming up with a CNN Plus or something.
Right, and he closed it down.
They closed it down because they want to go back to real news only, and as opposed to opinion
that's your
news.
takeaway? I have the opposite takeaway. I think
you're talking about the CNN streaming thing.
CNN streaming,
yeah.
Well, hold on. I can explain. Let me explain.
Go ahead, Rod.
Let me explain that. The CNN streaming news service, it was bound to fail, and it's just a financial matter, because they couldn't put news on the CNN streaming service, so nobody's gonna buy it, nobody's going to utilize it when you have what's his name, Anderson Cooper, talking about parenting or this, that, and the other. They couldn't sell it. They couldn't sell it as news. They couldn't put news on it, because then that makes their deals with cable companies where they get a percentage. They're selling it to them for a certain amount of money, but if I can get it for a lesser amount and not have to go on cable, not have to pay a cable subscription or pay YouTube, Hulu, whoever, a streaming service that buys it as a package, like they're going to lose money. So financially, it was doomed to fail because they can't put their regular live news content on it. They can't.
But they weren't looking to put their regular live news content.
Yeah,
I thought they were looking to start.
No, they weren't looking to do that because it breaks their prior financial deals. Like if I got an exclusive deal with you and you're paying me, like I'm paying you all this money for like CNN content. Like put it this way, let's say that like Netflix, HBO Max, Disney allows you to get a similar streaming service for let's say for $1 a month, and it's just exclusive, it's narrow band, you get all the Marvel content, you won't get the Disney movies, this, that, and the other, and it's a third party thing. Well, that means that their greater businesses lose money. So cable, go ahead.
I still think they were going after a different audience.
Yeah, I think they were going after their shows. So like, you have the shows they have on CNN.
But that's like
Lisa Lane hosts and all those shows. I think
that's
they're going for that market.
Well, that's like McDonald's selling tableware. You're known for selling fast food. You're known for one thing, and then you're trying to sell another content. CNN is a news brand.
No. But yeah, I agree with you. I don't disagree with what you're saying. What I'm saying is, and like anything else, you grow, right? Like when Elon Musk had PayPal, right, and he started to spin that into Tesla. If you just say, well, you're a PayPal guy, you need to sell that. No,
well, he bought Tesla. He bought
he bought into Tesla, right? But my point is, same with CNN. CNN wanted to expand themselves away from just
strictly news.
Right.
And they want to have more content.
Yeah, but the point I'm trying to make is not like he bought PayPal and then he was going to buy Pay Me. Like he's going to create Pay Me out of PayPal. He's not going to create a competing service. He bought
but this wasn't competing with CNN. If you think about how news work, right? And you probably know it better than I do. Between up to the 8 o'clock hour at night or so, you have to, I think part of the rules, you have to be carrying opinion. News has to be more objective, right? If you notice Fox during the day, they have regular real anchors that provide the news objectively. But at night, they have, Tucker Carlson
opinions.
Right. So CNN was trying to do the same thing with CNN Plus, where you're not cannibalizing CNN because you're giving the news, but you still start this other network. What happened partly, I thought, was in the midst of all this, right? CNN got bought by Disney, and Disney their leadership had a different opinion on this. They want to be news focused, and they didn't think there was a need for this new, this Plus network to compete against Fox. That's part of it.
Yeah, because I mean, Disney owns ABC. Like that's probably competing against their other content and their other interests. You understand what I'm saying?
I hear you, but CNN. But they bought CNN. If anything, CNN would be more of a competitor against ABC than the CNN Plus.
Well, not for news. That means that they own two news stations. It's kind of similar, but one's more historically known for broadcast. And you got to remember, like CNN history was started on TBS, Ted Turner at one point in time, early 80s to mid 80s. It was like the last bastion of actual true journalism. CNN was what other news networks kind of emulated to kind of keep pace. And then when Ted Turner sold them, when it became part of the corporate umbrella, that's how we got to where we are. Right. Because as long as we had that independent CNN, they had correspondents all around the globe. You got real war correspondent stuff, and the other news networks had to keep up. They had to keep pace because people would rather tune in to CNN to get a more kind of like what we felt valid.
On the sports side, they were like ESPN of sports, right?
Yes.
Up news, right? They were radical and different.
Yeah. And they were doing what for lack of a better term, the enthusiasts for news, and like what ESPN does for the enthusiasts for sports, what people thought was true and valid.
Right.
So everybody else tried to emulate to try to get some of that market share. That's how come, you had Cronkite, you had Koppel, and then Koppel got fed. Like once CNN got sold and he really couldn't do his stuff, he left. And he was on CNN. He was on CNN. He was doing like right after they sold, he was doing like special programs for them, and then he got tired of that and just laid it down. Just stopped.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
Like always go back to the history, because that gives you some insights into why things are the way they are and why they kind of got to where where they currently are and where they're gonna go. Because like CNN used to be the de facto. If you didn't really see it on CNN, you didn't necessarily believe it necessarily as news back in the day.
So in other news, anybody hear about Mike Tyson's
Yeah, I saw that
situation?
Oh man,
I did not.
yeah.
How did you
not hear about
miss
Mike
it?
Tyson? How'd you miss that, Mike? How'd you miss that, Mike?
No pun intended.
Yeah, I know.
Or pun intended.
So I'll give you Cliff Notes version of it. Mike Tyson's on an airplane. I think he's flying business class, not coach. And there's some fans of his or some guys that see him and they want to take pictures with him. Guy that's drunk and his buddy. Guy goes over to Mike. Hey, I love you, Mike. Take a picture of him. Takes a picture with Mike. And then he keeps bothering him. He's getting his face and he's sitting behind him and keeps bothering him, needling him. Eventually, Mike gets fed up, and Mike claims, this is after the fight, claims he threw a bottle at him. Mike gets fed up and basically turns on and beats his guy's ass, starts throwing punches on the guy, bloodies his face. Now, his friend or a guy that was with him takes a picture of it, and he shows a picture of the guy later. You see his face all bloody, he's looking all sad and shit. And now he's claiming that I tried to take a picture of Mike Tyson, he beat my ass. So now there's a big, he apparently, from last I heard, guy apparently got a lawyer and he's trying to lawyer up. He's going to basically, obviously he's probably going to sue him because of it, which is kind of messed up because, it's kind of fucked up because it's like, you're trying to, he got just trying to fly an airplane, be a regular guy, do his thing. And the guy takes a picture of him and he keeps bothering him and he snaps. And as soon as he snaps, this guy takes a picture of him and then sues him for assault.
Someone said this though. Why was Mike flying business class or whatever, man?
I was thinking that too.
Right.
My wife said the same thing.
Exactly.
I was like, you know what? The money he's gonna have to pay this guy, he could have paid. He could have went first class and been fine.
That's
hindsight. I think it's a lesson
fellas.
he needs to learn. Yeah, no, hindsight is 2020. But I feel bad for him, because it's like, and I see a side of it because you trying to, he just wants to fly 420. He wants to fly to, I think he was flying. What was he flying to?
San Diego or someplace.
I forget where it was. San Diego, one of them places before 420 celebration. And these guys are basically drunk off the ass, and they're basically being assholes. And you can see how they coordinated it. That they wanted to try and take him off and take pictures, and then just have him get beat up and claim that and file a lawsuit.
And then the fake sad faces that he was.
I know.
I know. Get out of here. Let me be on the jury.
I know.
This will probably be settled long before that, though. That's the problem.
It probably will. And I think if I'm Mike Tyson from now on, I fly first class. I hate to say it, because Mike has been on a really good, he's been on a really good sort of streak of late. Like he's been really, everybody seems to really love him. He's been really doing a lot of.
There's also another story that might work in his favor. 3 months ago, similar situation happened. Someone actually tried to pull a gun out on Mike Tyson, and he calmly, he more or less disarms the guy and later hugs the guy. He de-escalates the situation.
Yeah.
Like, I know old school Mike Tyson has the loose cannon persona, but current day Mike Tyson, not so much.
Aaron, did you hear what you just said? Aaron, did you hear what you just said? Somebody pulled a gun on him and he punched him. The guy that had the gun had the advantage. So, yeah.
I'm saying, Mike, rather than just saying mercy beating the shit out of the person, he disarmed them and then hugged it out. I'm saying I think he's displayed that he has the ability to control himself.
Right.
I feel like a jury could buy this idea that someone like Mike Tyson, trained boxer who knows how dangerous his hands are, would have to be extremely provoked before he starts doing any shit like this.
But okay,
but Aaron, you're in an enclosed space. You're in an enclosed space.
And
let's say 5,000 miles up in the air. It's different than you're on the ground.
I think they were taxiing. I don't think they were on the air yet. I don't think so. Because I think
he's still on an enclosed space.
But he's in an enclosed space, and he's a trained boxer. That kind of, there's a whole thing about your hands being lethal weapons. I don't know how much that holds water these days, but there used to be a big thing. Like if you were
his hands were a lethal weapon when he was training and he was a professional boxer. He's no longer.
I'm not sure how it works.
Yeah. I don't know.
Sure.
You know,
No. I think it's different for boxing than it is for like when martial arts is more techniques. So once you know the techniques, like you really can.
No, man. As a boxer, a trained boxer,
the playing boxer can beat your ass and
They'll kill you.
No, I know. No. I'm not
You
saying
up
that they
badly.
don't have. I'm not saying that they don't have techniques, but martial artists they know train things of how to hurt you, hit different pressure points, and that doesn't change over time.
Like an MMA fighter.
Your speed can be less, your power can be less, but all it takes is a little bit of pressure. It's different with boxing. Like with boxing, like speed and power, like.
Well, actually,
I don't know, man. I see some
It don't
old
take
dudes,
that much
old
to knock a
boxers
man out.
that can
and
Yeah.
put them against
a
young person that's training, that's in their prime, and he.
But here's the thing, Aaron.
What's his name?
Oh,
What was his
weird.
name?
That's
95%. Aaron,
What was the
90%.
boxer? Mosley.
Yeah.
That when he got old, losing all them fights.
Yeah, but what you're missing though is 99% of the population aren't boxers.
Yeah.
So his hands are lethal to 99% of the population.
True.
Yep.
Right?
I've seen him. I've seen him as these old
I don't know if
looking
you saw the
boxers.
text thread. I'm not trying to take that punch. I'm not.
Yeah.
No.
You think he was
not trying to take that punch.
Seated?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mike. I'm gonna sit back here. Like
He was seated. Come on,
I'm gonna
man.
have my Coca-Cola, Mr. Mike.
What's another problem is that people expect celebrities to be accessible. I mean, people do not respect the unfortunately, people don't respect the personhood of celebrities.
They stop seeing them as people.
Right. They are these entertainment objects. You entertain me, therefore it's sort of the same attitude that like people who like look down on like minimum wage workers or service workers, like
certain porn stars I know.
Entertainment. But that's
That was from left field.
They just assume.
What did he say? Certain what? Certain porn
I
stars.
was reading a story of a porn star who literally just went out to dinner with a boyfriend or whatever. A fan came up to their asked for an autograph. They politely said no, and they threw a drink in their face.
I was gonna tell you to put the tablet down.
Was it Sarah J?
At least turn off the camera. I mean,
Go. You were saying, Mike? Sorry.
But to add in Aaron's point, and this is the weird thing about like what are called now parasocial relationships, where you stop respecting the personhood and agency of another individual.
And you think that you know them and have a relationship with them when you really don't.
Right.
That's
And you know, you can like Mike Tyson all you want, but you know, him being on the plane doesn't entitle you to basically interact with him. Like I last time I went down to Maryland, I realized I was on I got upgraded to a first class seat on the train, and I ended up sitting next to across the aisle to this celebrity whom I looked down on at first because I didn't recognize him. But like, who am I? Like, but also it's like, oh, I know who that is. It's like, oh well, I'm going to leave her alone. She very clearly wants to be alone. She was giving all the body language of like, I don't want to be talked to. You know, and she kept sort of like noticing that I was like looking at her. I was like, oh, I gotta stop looking at her, but you know, like you've gotta respect people, and I think people assume that famous people don't deserve that same right to be left alone sometimes.
Well, man, you gotta tell us who it is. Who was that? You gotta say who that was.
Was it Sarah J?
No. I believe it's a comedian. It was Jennifer Wolf.
Messing with you. Just trying to have fun.
Oh man, yo. Oh man. So anyhow, fellas, anybody else got any other topics that they want to discuss? Go off the chest, questions, comments, rants.
I really wish our state would fund more not-for-profits and just public health programs. It really sucks, the lack of funding to help people who are in need. Like, I didn't think it would be this bad, but it's so much worse.
Like
So much worse
what particular programs are underfunded? What programs do you feel?
Housing for homeless. That's been the entire last 2 weeks has just been me working with one client to find them a shelter that they can get into, while also balancing out the fact that because of their age and experience, they're like super anal about not wanting to go to certain places. But I'm like, yeah, if I'd been through the ringer like you, I'd be kind of like very specific about where I want to go to. It's just, I also don't want you to go out into the woods anymore. It's bad enough you were out there all winter.
Well,
just imagine that. Imagine not being able to find any housing, not being able to go anywhere else to go, and your best thing you do to survive is going out in the woods during winter in Connecticut.
I've seen it, man.
This is going to be the first of many homeless clients I'm going to be working with.
I saw.
And I'm just like,
go ahead. I'm sorry. I saw it. It was for a while. I used to see people. There's a running trail in Hamden. I would see like a guy who had like a whole set up there. He had like a whole tent and all sorts of things set up there. And people do it. People do it. A lot of times the homeless people who do it, do it because they're they don't want to be in shelters because they feel dangerous. They're homeless. So
yeah, I mean,
that's some of the
shelters for some folks, shelters aren't necessarily the safest place, but it goes down. Again, we can get into the finances and the budget talk. A couple of things that come to mind, and I just saw a recent article earlier today that the state of Connecticut, what is it? They want to raise state employees' salary by, I think, somewhere between 3 to 4% because they state employees are leaving to the private sector. And then I also saw another interesting story. Our governor doesn't take the salary that's given to him, but his tax returns over the last 3 years, he's earned $26
million.
Yeah, 26 over the last 3 years. So eight and some change. eight and some change. So that's it's kind of interesting. It's just how society wants to what's the word I'm looking for? Tax wealth and distribute it. No. And redistributed wealth. I mean, we always scrutinize and look down on programs for individuals or for certain groups of people, whether they're marginalized or not marginalized.
Or the color of their skin, which I believe was David's earlier point.
That's one of the groups. That's one of the groups I'm talking about. But nobody ever discusses the millions, billions of dollars of monies and tax incentives for businesses and corporations that and as Mike brought up earlier, like an Air Force base or a tank here, a tank there, this, that, and the other, all the stuff that you can.
I actually can explain about the tanks, Rod. It's been on my mind since I started at the job, but it's the question of, do we want to be a society that's proactive or reactive? Most of the problems we're actually describing stem from us being reactive.
It goes to perception as reality, and there is a definite a hardcore belief, not a meme, not a thought, a core belief. Unless we have sort of military presence or a military industrial complex that's as vast as it is, we as Americans are less safe. And the minute that you decrease their budget by 1 cent, we're less safe. And if we get hit, you're going to be viewed as weak. So it's an ever escalating financial cost, burden, whatever word you choose to use, because nobody wants to be the politician that voted for or actually had the power to decrease the military industrial complex budget. Because if something happens, you're done for the rest of that's the end of your career. You're done.
Fear mongering. Yep. Fear mongering.
Yeah.
You keep the coffers full. That's all.
Yeah, but nobody wants to.
Nobody wants to get their hands dirty and do the actual hard work.
No. Nobody wants to even have the thought, the idea, the premise that if we have a healthy, strong, well-fed, well-educated, skilled population, maybe we'd be stronger as a country that way also.
That makes too much sense. That makes too much
sense.
And you know what?
Damn.
And you know what? It's not sexy. It's not.
No,
sexy.
it's not.
It's not easy.
Sexy.
It's not
that.
It sounds like hard work.
Strong, working.
Rod, I want quick solutions, easy solutions, where I get to point at the bad guy and say they're evil. No,
exactly.
It's too hard.
But that's how most politics run. That's how most politics is run.
It's also what most people respond to.
Right, most people respond to fear.
Back to something I said earlier. I mean, that's what kind of FDR kind of did to get us out of the depression. Like he took care of the population, and then by the time what was it? World War II happened, we were ready.
Yep.
We were ready, and we could industrialize, we could build tanks, we could convert our industrial centers into the war machine, and then we was prosperous afterwards, and then certain groups said, the hell with this.
Well, I think a world war was something that we could kind of galvanize behind, and that you kind of, again, you have a war effort, and that becomes, something that you can kind of galvanize behind.
Oh, but no, think about after when we're in the depression.
Mm-hmm.
If there is no HDR, do we survive the World War II?
Yeah, probably not without the New Deal.
No, but what I'm saying is America, does America have the capacity to beef up their industrial productivity to help to be the deciding factor to win the war?
Probably not. I mean, but you also have to consider that. You also have to consider the U.S. was reluctant to enter the war until after Pearl Harbor. Pearl Harbor was part of the deciding factor for us to join the war.
You need to. I'm not a libertarian. I'm saying this. I'm not a libertarian. I do listen to and read some libertarian things. Most people don't know during World War I. And early in the stages of World War II, we were loaning money and resources to both sides. We were getting paid before we entered. So
you're only libertarian adjacent?
Yeah, I'm libertarian adjacent. I'm Republican adjacent. I'm Democratic adjacent.
Rod, you have a number of libertarian inclinations. You're just very informed, and you will break from that ideology to make bigger points. You are, in fact,
I got a lot of leftist stuff. I got a lot of leftist stuff also, but however, the current execution frustrates me. I'll just say that. I believe in what's the word? A multifaceted approach that's not what's the word I'm looking for? That's not totally bought into one philosophy, because in any
maybe you're just too smart to be an ideologue.
No. In any situation, it depends on to use a military example, since we're talking military stuff, it depends on the conditions on the ground. So it depends on the conditions that you're facing to figure out which one is going to work the best for that situation. I don't believe that I should just totally buy into any one thing, and then whatever that philosophy has, something from that philosophy has to work to fix this situation. No,
you fence sitter. Get it, pick a side. You fence sitter.
I'm on all sides. I'm a
Todd,
circle.
you're
I'm
dead wrong for that.
I'm a circle.
I'm a sphere.
I'm a sphere. In a
Man,
vacuum,
you're just really smart and well-informed.
In a vacuum, what's the form that forms? A sphere or something elliptical. That's what forms. That's what I am.
He is like water.
No hard edges. No hard edges.
Still fence sitter.
Rodney, an absolute treasure.
Anyhow, fellas, I think we've.
No, it was a good one. I enjoyed the barbershop talk.
We got to wrap some more, man. We'll do it again.
Yeah, man.
We'll keep it going, man.
I'm sorry. I've been feeling like I might have killed the conversation with my text a few weeks ago.
You worry too much.
I know.
Mike's not used to being liked by everyone. That's his problem.
No, I think we can't do is this every week. I think it takes, we have to kind of have enough stuff to sort of pad the time, so we're not just sort of, running around in circles. So we have enough time to kind of discuss issues at length. So we'll do it again, man. We'll do it again. What you call it? I'm not inviting your boy DJ though. DJ is done.
Hey,
really?
This man sent, I don't know how many texts, 40 of them.
When?
Up until the last second of the cast.
Today.
Up until the last second of the cast.
Up until the last minute. And I said, yo, what's up? We're recording. Oh, I got some other plans. But you have a time you arguing about other stuff, man? Come on, man. I'm not going to argue with you a text about your issues. We'll discuss it later.
And David's still here. Thanks for the breakdown on the financial side of things.
Take us offline so we can talk about Moon Knight.
Yeah, man.
Oh, yeah,
right, man.
I'm leaving for that because I don't want spoilers.